Hello, my fellow YouTubers. I want to make a quick video on how once you learn enough about this stuff, that if you feel you either have to stay around abusive narcissists, perhaps a family, or you can tolerate it, use a little bit of gray rock and take on the mentality of just kind of sitting back and watching the ish show. It's just a SHIT show, because it is, if you could detach yourself and the jabs at your ego and the things, the comments to embarrass you, humiliate you, hurt you, and you can just go into that arena of some family member's house or a picnic with all these family members where this is going to be taking place for sure, without a doubt, and you can kind of just put on that totally resilient, comprehensive understanding of what's taking place. It's all about them and their insecurity and their desire to see a reaction on your face, right? So you just know that it has nothing to do with you. It's 100% entirely about them. And you didn't support the image, the facade, the false mask enough. You weren't on board 100%. As I said in a previous video, if you're there supporting that false mask 99%, you're vilified just as much as the family member or the person that's not supporting it at all. So it has to be 100%. So if you're a person that is in love with truth, or out of love, you sometimes will tell people the truth. Like, maybe you shouldn't have that, that fifth drink or that fourth drink, or I don't think it's a good idea to drive. If you say that to a narcissist when they're walking in their car and they're decided they're driving home, and you say, I don't think it's a good idea for you to drive because I think you're a little intoxicated, they're going to be pissed at you, because how dare you show any kind of authority over them and their actions, So I was kind of good in this in some ways because, it's literally like 8 years before I went no contact. I knew my mother would call. No, it wasn't 8 years. It was, wow, it was literally like 28 years before I went no contact. I knew my mother was regularly calling me for, it was about, I'd say about 80 to 85% of the time where she was just trying to bait me into an argument. And I took notes on a pad and left it right by my phone back when we had landlines. Well, no, it was 28 years plus. Yeah, it was over 30 when I made notes right next on a little notepad right next to my phone on how to not be baited into arguments. But I guess I was a little bit sensitive. I guess I was a little bit immature. I was in my upper 20s when I wrote these notes. But it was around the same time when really bad things were happening, really abusive things. I mean, here I am in my late 20s, and my mom literally moves in a couple units down in the same apartment complex and just starts doing such inappropriate stuff that I had to witness with my own eyes that I'd rather not go into. Yeah, just things you would never expect a mother to do, and to do it right in front of you, But they got no embarrassment. They don't have like that filter, you know. I'm embarrassed for them. I mean, we went out to try on some shoes, me and my brother in Century City at the time, and my brother was mirroring the guy, like in an exaggerated way. So he thought the guy didn't notice. And I'm watching this going, this guy knows you're mocking him. And this guy knows you're being incredibly rude to him for absolutely no reason. Simply because obviously you find some enjoyment in being a sadist, you know? You're mimicking him in such a heinous way. And I was extremely embarrassed for him and felt extremely sorry for the shoe salesman. You know, and my brother was just laughing so much during it, and afterwards he was laughing so much. And, you know, I just couldn't laugh about it. And so my brother kept picking up signs and kept trying to draw me into the darkness. And I kept being firmly planted in the light. But so they know, you know, and even just that, not going, you know, not laughing when the 90-year-old lady falls trying to get on the escalator. You know, you've got to laugh at that with them or you're not on board, you know. So you've got to come over to the darkness and be on that team in the evilness in order to be accepted by them and treated as one of their flying monkeys, because they have no friends. They have flying monkeys, they have targets for abuse, and targets to kiss ass to and raise their status by aligning themselves with. Everything's transactional, right? So, okay, if I do this for you, you do this for me. And that's always the transactional. Everything's about, you know, okay, I'll tell you I'm so proud of you for A, B, and C, and then you better return that. Because I'm keeping a mental note that I'm one up on you and you owe me one. So, like, in some of the ways that I would deal with it pretty good is like my brother, right? He would have to work out, and then he would put on an extremely tight shirt to show his muscles, you know. And they had to always have parties at their house. They were extremely uncomfortable going to parties at other people's houses because they felt insecure, and they'd have to start putting down the house. Can you believe how crummy this house is? Did you see the steps out front of this house? And, you know, you'd be overhearing this and you'd be like, it's a nice house, you know? It's actually nicer than your house. Lay off, relax. It's just an ish show, you know? But I'd watch my brother strut around like a peacock at these family parties and just feel like such the life of the party and such the guy, you know? That I would actually like secretly film him and take pictures of him because it was really funny to me. You could just see the ego and the pride off the charts. You know, sometimes I would see my sister-in-law with her always having to brag and, you know, always make herself the center of attention. Sometimes notice other adults, like in-laws or family members, just start to like kind of, you could see on their body language and their facial expression, just see them starting to like kind of, man, this is hard to tolerate, you know? And then you'd see her run off because she would hit on groups, little groups that were talking. She'd run to them. Excuse me, I want to tell you about my new accomplishment. I was just promoted. And they're, oh, wow, wonderful, how great. You know, but she could only keep all the attention on her for so long. And she'd have like 1, 2, or 3 different things that at each party that she'd run up to these groups. So then, you know, she'd be in that group for 5 minutes bragging her little tail off and then run to another group. But with me, whenever she would see me in a group, she would run up to that group and make the conversation all about her. And she would just do that all night long. And if I tried to talk, she would literally go, oh, one more thing. So then what I did was I said, this role isn't good enough for me. I'll take it, but I got my eyes on the top. And I'm going to get the top promotion. You know, it was like, wonderful, Heather. Wow. That's just all you'd find yourself saying around her is just her bragging, and you going, wow, you must really be happy with yourself. I mean, that's all you can do, is because that's what she's obviously there for. She's there to get patted on the back and, feel important. Um, but some of the times, what I would not do right is this same sister in law, the evil eye. Because we'd be out at a restaurant, and literally the whole hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, everyone's devoted on enjoying their food, enjoying their company, and yet you got one person. And literally, if she wasn't bragging, which she would do a lot of, as much as capable, but her husband, remember my brother, full blown narcissist, is also got to get the center stage. So they would try to break it up as much as possible. So between the two of them, they probably controlled, 45% each, 90% total, was all about them talking about themselves, their accomplishments, how much money they're making, how proud they are of their children, start bragging about their children, blah, 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 blah. And, but during the 45% of my brother's time, bragging, and the 10% of other family members just interacting at, being the center of attention. So that would be 55% of the time she was trying to burn a hole in my head, just nonstop, and I would let that kind of get to me after a while, because I loved my family members. I just wanted to enjoy their company and the food. And yet half the time, even more than half the time, you've got this person that's just trying to take you down. And I used to always tell people that the main thing that gets me is that she is so blatantly, it's so obvious that she's just trying to destroy my good time. She's just trying to pick a fight, and if it wasn't so obvious, and if it wasn't so willful, like if it was done on purpose, I mean on accident, because she's just maybe an uptight bitch, and she's kind of doing that to everyone equally just because that's the way she is, I could deal with that. But no, it's one person. 55% of my time, I'm going to destroy you, and I'm going to engage you in a fight. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to publicly humiliate you. And, then I'll see my brother little smirk right behind her as she's calling me out at the dinner table, and my own mother would just look down, would never say anything, and no one would ever say anything. So there were some things I didn't put up that well with, like one, the evil eye. And this sister-in-law always bragging, that would get hard after a while, because when she would follow me around from all of my social interactions, I couldn't say anything about myself because she was speaking. And if I ever went to say, oh, I had a really good thing happen at work yesterday, she would just cut me off right there and go, wait, I wasn't done yet, or if she had already cut me off so many times and I had tried to share the same thing 3 or 4 times and she always interrupted me, people are going to start to notice that, and she's aware of that. And that looks extremely rude, right? People are going to see that. So sometimes when she couldn't interrupt anymore, she would just roll her eyes and start to shake her head, literally shake her head and just pierce her lips and just look at me like, how dare you? How dare you? When she has been bragging for hours straight and I can't get one little story in from work or something. So the always bragging would get to me eventually. And then just the concept that you're not allowed to speak, and her once again so obviously and willfully going so far out of her way to make sure that I'm never allowed to speak at a family gathering. And if I do speak, if she has to let me because she's interrupted me so many times within 1 minute or 2 minutes, the rolling of the eyes and then the shaking of the head and the literally like, how dare you come into my household and eat the food we're providing and still expect to be able to speak? Isn't it enough that you're here and you're able to eat? You know, like, I thought it was invited to dinner, you know? I thought that came with the package. I didn't think it meant that if I eat the food, I'm not allowed to interact with anyone or talk at all. um, but here's a funny thing that she did once. She got really drunk. She's a full-blown alcoholic. Drinks wine every night, usually like a full bottle to her head of red wine, white wine, whatever kind of wine, as long as it's got high alcohol content. So she was drunk at her own party. Remember, they don't like going to other people's parties. And when they do, they're going to do stuff to ruin other people's times. They're going to do things to make it all about them. They're going to do things to put down the quality of the food. You know, they're going to do things to make people think that I didn't have that much of a good time there tonight, you know? But when I go to their house, I always have a pretty good time, right? So anyway, she was drunk at this party, and some people came by that weren't really like on the roster, but they were friends of a friend. And I think this one friend that was invited said, you know, oh, my friends are going to be walking right by our house at like 10 tonight, on the way over to Joel's. Would you mind if they stopped in to say hi? You know, something like that. And she gave permission. So it ended up being like 4 or 5 people that she was extremely uncomfortable with, that she didn't know them, and they're in her house. So then she has this brand new, you know, everything is, you know, who makes it. So anytime you give her a gift, immediately she won't show any appreciation for the gift at all, even if she loved it, until she saw the brand. And if the brand was expensive, then she would look at the color and the pattern and put it up. But if it wasn't a well-known, expensive, trendy brand, high status, she would literally look at it, look for the tag. She'd see the tag was a no-name brand, close the box up and push it aside. Wouldn't thank the person. Or she would do, you know, a thank you, you know, one of those. But anyways, so this expensive Gucci purse, or probably, you know, not even Gucci, because that's not what she was into, but I don't know the most expensive handbags. I just don't. I'm trying to remember one right now, but I can't think of one. Case, I think Case is one. So, you know, she has to get the best, most expensive. So her husband bought her like the most expensive purse you can buy on the market. And then she misplaced it. And she went to find it while they were there, and she couldn't find her purse. And she openly accused these people, these 4 or 5 people that she doesn't know, of stealing her purse. Wow, how embarrassing. Because then obviously my brother had to get involved and try to calm her down, because she's drunk and she's yelling and getting unhinged. And my brother's like, no, let's calm down. Let's think. Where are the 3 top places that you put your purse? You know, and so within a matter of minutes, he found the purse for her. And, you know, just things like that, where she just would really, really put her foot in her mouth and have a faux pas. Or for instance, my mom making just such asinine comments. Like once she was like, wow, look at you, Shell. I just had blue jeans on and a collared short sleeve shirt. She's like, you're actually able to dress yourself very nicely. You told me you got those pants hemmed. You know, I was like, yeah. And you went and picked out that shirt on your own. And this is in front of like at least 12 people listening. I'm just like, gee, thank you. You know, if that's not a backhanded compliment, I don't know what is. You're actually able to dress yourself. Yeah, I've been doing it for 35 years, if you haven't noticed. So, that's something that you could just like laugh out loud and just like literally grab your stomach and start laughing at. Everyone's going to realize that is humor, you know? It was a total put down, sugar coated, and a compliment, you know? Um, and then by you just laughing, you end up looking like the good one because people are going to see that, wow, he's got a strong ego. It's not a sensitive ego. He's able to take such a negative put down in front of all these people by his own mother, and they're going to be able to see that that was kind of a put down. That was kind of something rude to say. And basically, they're going to be able to realize you were trying to publicly humiliate your son. Is that really necessary? So, like I said, those phone calls, I've known about the level of dysfunction within my family pretty much my whole life. But I still love them. And, I didn't learn about narcissism in school. I didn't start watching YouTube until about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, maybe. So I just didn't know about this stuff. And so I would actually try to call them out and try not really to call them out, but to go, do you remember what you did an hour ago? Like pull someone aside, and go, was that really appropriate to say that, wow, you were able to dress yourself? But of course, then they love that too, and then they can start to play the victim. But basically, if you don't want to go no contact, you got to get that mindset that let's be 100% secure. Let's armor up before we go. And let's just go watch the level of dysfunction, the level of chaos, the level of buffoonery, I remember my brother and his daughter, they were working out together. And they were both in really, really good shape. And I was too. I was doing P90X every day. That's hour-long videos. I was in the best shape of my life in like my like from 38 to like 48. I was just incredibly I had like an 8-pack. I really, really got into that. And but there were these iron beams at my mother's and stepmother's house, and they started showing off, like literally jumping up, grabbing, those iron beams they're kind of shaped like an hourglass, and they have the little ridges. So they jump up and grab that and do pull-ups, and then do like lift their legs with straight legs, lift their legs up as high as they could, and they're just spending like 20-30 minutes showing off for anyone that would watch. And I was in just as good a shape, if not better. I could have started trying to show off too, but actually, as a secure person, you don't need to show off, right? And it's kind of just like to just see their insecurity and their need to draw attention to themselves, and the need to show off, and the need to brag, and the need to squash anyone that tries to talk about themselves, unless they're a high status person that they want to align themselves with. But yeah, so you can go just really, really get good at practicing that mindset of this is going to be pure entertainment. These poor people, and maybe even pray for them beforehand, and pray for yourself not to let these jabs and jibes, the wickedness and snares, try not to let any of that get to you, because it's coming. So just go prepared and just be ready to giggle inside nonstop. When my brother in one of his muscle shirts was walking around, I'd sometimes just lift up my camera to him. And he didn't know that I wanted to take a picture because it looked funny to me. And he would literally just, totally pose and think, oh, good, I'm the center of attention in this guy's camera, And I was like giggling, laughing, taking the photo as he's all, trying to be as buff as he can and or look as macho as he can. And I don't know. I can't figure it out. But anyways, there you have it. There's my 2 cents on going gray rock. But like they end up saying some really, really hurtful things. Like, my mom would try to say that like I had some kind of a crush on her. And then I would see the reactions when certain things were said in her brothers and in her sisters and in that her whole side of the family was convinced that I somehow, like, I don't know, had a crush on my own mother. So these things are just really hard to be around. And then my brother started the same thing with my niece. Started like indicating that like I stared at her, or I was overly attracted to her physicality, or just weird stuff, because you just pick up on it. Like I was at a party and my niece was staying in her bedroom, and so we'd been at the party for like an hour and a half, and I was like, I thought Camille was gonna be here, and they were like, oh yeah, well she's in her bedroom studying. I was like, oh, I'd like to say hi. And it's like, okay, everyone, would you like to see Camille? Because Sheldon is requesting to see my daughter. And like really weird. And then they bring her out. And when I greet her, he starts like looking down at the ground and shaking his head. And then he like pushes her back and tries to hide her behind her huge behemoth boyfriend. Like I'm looking at her in like a weird way. And then I looked at the other people and I start seeing them kind of like look down, and obviously I could tell they've heard some smear campaign about me being attracted to my own niece and my own mother, trying to some weird stuff. And then my mother would sometimes insist that I come over to help her. And then when I would get there, my brother would be there too. And then all of a sudden, she'd tell things for my brother to do and tell me that she was trying to think of something for me to do and just to wait there on the couch. And a couple hours would go by and all I would do is I gave up my Saturday to help, and I was told to sit on the couch the whole time. And I had to watch my brother helping her the whole time. My brother would do the same thing with moving. He'd say, I really need your help Saturday, Shell, from about like 1 o'clock to say about 5, and I'll buy some lunch for us or dinner. But wear some clothes you don't mind getting dirty. We're gonna be busting our ass all day long. And then I'd show up and he'd have like 4 Hispanic workmen there, and they would just be loading the stuff, right? And then he wouldn't interact with me, and I'd kind of be like, hey, bro, let me know where I can help. He'd be like, all right, I know I'm kind of distracted right now, and he'd keep running around doing things, and he would just keep poo-pooing me until like after 25-30 minutes, I'm just like, I'm out of here. He doesn't want me to help. He just wants me to feel useless and that I'm not capable of helping for some reason. So some of the things are really hard to put with because they will go so low, and they will be willing to do such crazy work behind the scenes to smear your good name. So that's the hard part. Like if it was just the narcissists acting silly and foolish at parties, it'd be much easier than if they weren't, you know, really churning everyone against you. And these are people, family members you grew up with, family members you respect, family members that your opinion or their opinion of you matters, and it's been destroyed, year in, year out. So, at some point, and like also like, if they're literally, if, let's say you're like me and you come from a family of 3 narcissists and you're the only empath and you're the scapegoat, and you've literally got all 3 of them out in the whole city you live in talking smack against you all the time. That's hard to deal with because now everyone you come in contact with practically has a very negative opinion of you. So there's just sometimes where you just got to cut bait. You got to cut your losses, and sever ties and move somewhere and start over. So that's obviously an extremely personal decision. But there's my take on that. God bless you. Have a good day.